So Van Dix, he suggests that access to technology is a requirement for a participation in the knowledge economy, thereby influencing what the educational achievement. This theory underscores the disparate, which is different, faced by those who are from the marginalized area, or the marginalized students who are often marginalized by their limited exposure to digital resources. We all know that the students from, if I can make an example, in most of the time in rural areas, you'll find that there are fewer internet cafe, the infrastructures where students can go, maybe, or even the student where they can go and access maybe internet, connect to Wi-Fi. So they struggle with the network connection most of the time. Addressing the digital divide requires a comprehensive policy intervention that prioritizes technological investment and inclusive pedagogical strategies. There should be policies involved, which is true. The policymakers should consider expanding the broader brand infrastructure in rural areas to provide equitable internet access. Educational institutions must adopt inclusive teaching methods that accommodate diverse learning needs and integrate digital skills training into the curriculum. COVID-19 has taught us that. A study by Smith that was done in 2019 highlights that access to digital resources in rural areas is limited, as what I've aforementioned earlier, impacting student ability to engage with digital learning platform. This digital divide is especially impacting in a field like science, math, and engineering that's really on current research, which rely, on the current research material, and that is true. Brown and Jones emphasize the skill gap, pointing out that students from rural background often lacks the digital literacy necessary for effecting learning. Another study by Masuku suggests that intervention aimed at improving digital infrastructure in rural areas have shown positive results, though these are still insufficient to bridge the gap. So there have been some interventions that have taken place, but still that is not enough. The digital divide is clear in South African university, where urban students often have better access to online resources and gain academic advantage over the rural peers. Some universities have rolled out digital inclusion projects, such as providing students with laptops and creating more widespread internet access point. But the challenge remains regarding the sustained funding and the ongoing digital training of students and staff. So we know in universities, in the beginning of the year, there is this funding that is given to students by NSFAS so that they can buy the digital device, which are laptops, also buy maybe some, laptops, just so that they will have access to the Wi-Fi, the university Wi-Fi, and start searching things online, accessing the ebooks online. But the issue of funding always strikes at times, because there are always challenges in life. As a result, this issue of funding hinders student ability to develop essential 21st century skills, thereby affecting their academic success. Luthuli emphasized the importance of targeted digital literacy programs at a rural university to equip students with the skill needed to succeed in increasing the digital academic environment. Despite government effort to provide digital device and internet to rural universities, significant technological barriers remains. So the problem statements, I have written I have outlined it like this in point forms, so that it is displayed clearly that these are the problems that the study is trying to to clarify. We have the issue of the disadvantaged students from the rural area. They face limited access to higher speed internet, digital device, and digital literacy training. There should be programs that encourage that teaches what students the digital the way of operating in the digital field. Academic performance, especially in technological development, academic performance, especially in technological dependent field like STEM, which are science, technology, and math. Persistent infrastructure and social economy and policy challenges widen the educational inequality. So even though the government is trying, but there's still a problem, ongoing problem in terms of social economy and policy, social policy that were mainly created to address this educational equality. So the objectives of the study, I only write only these three: to assess the current level of digital literacy and technological access among rural students in South Africa higher education institution, to evaluate the impact of limited digital access and skills on academic performance and success of rural students, to investigate existing policies and institutional initiatives aimed at reducing the digital divide in South African universities. So the theoretical framework that I chose for this study is by Van Dijk's, the same theory that I have aforementioned earlier. This theory provides a useful framework for understanding the digital divide in South African higher education. The theory argues that social inequality drives digital inequality, limiting access to educational technology and affecting student participation and as well as success. It emphasizes that mere access to technology is insufficient, and the ability to effectively utilize these resources is very crucial. The framework defines digital access through four dimensions, hence why I chose to use this framework: physical, skill, usage, and quality of access. There are four other empirical studies suggesting the theory include the study by that author and all those authors that I've mentioned there. Van Dijk's theory of digital access, so it starts from the bottom and go all up to usage. I've given the explanation of all components of the theory. So by motivation, what do I mean? This refers to the willingness or the interest in using digital technologies. This stage involves attitude, belief, and psychological readiness is essential as the first step towards digital inclusion. Because it also lies or depends on the person if he's interested in digital technologies. The material, 5 minutes. Okay. So the material or physical access, this one refers to the necessary devices and internet connectivity, whereas the skill access refers to the ability to use digital tools effectively, and usage access uses access concerning what the actual and the meaning use of the digital technology, and so forth. Other theories that relate, these are the theories that relate: social learning theory by Banjuri, and critical pedagogy, and digital capital framework. They relate to this, that I could have used these theories to conduct my study, but I chose that one because that one explains all the components that are expected to clarify or outline to the research study. Okay, I'll just explain this now. So we have the research methodology. I will use the qualitative research methodology as it is an approach that is used in academic and professional research to explore and understand people experience and perception and motivation and social context in depth. So this research, if it were to be conducted, it will require an in-depth information, also the experience, the perception of the students. The recommendation, bridging the digital divide requires addressing social inequalities, and improving digital literacy and ensuring equal access to technology to support all students' academic success. In conclusion, digital divide in South African university limits rural student access and skill and academic success, despite some progress, because there has been some progress, there is some progress that the government is making, also the universities, but that is not enough. There's still more effort that needs to be put on an issue of digital divide. Ongoing challenges require targeted efforts to improve digital access and literacy. I thank you all, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mabiga. You had a wonderful presentation. Okay, let's give our two speakers now combined applause, just to warm up the discussion that we're moving into now. So, Mr. Mabiga, you speak of the digital divide and its impact on the learning abilities of learners in rural areas. And maybe if you had, I don't know, you might be consoled in a way. I had some discussion or perhaps some rumor concerning Starlink coming out of Washington. I do not know whether anything will come out of that. I do not know whether it was just an offer, but if it does materialize, maybe it would go a long way towards bridging that gap. Now, I would ask colleagues here to pose questions or make comments. If there be any, we would give you about 8 minutes for that. Just raise your hand if you have got a comment to make or a question to pose to one or the other of our speakers there. Recognize there's one hand there. Let me just see all the hands, all the people that intend asking questions, so that I can budget time wisely. So just one. Is there a roving mic so that we present it to the gentleman, to our colleague there? Is there a roving mic? Okay. That desk there. You can ask your question.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And thank you so much, Lwandile and Spamandla, for your wonderful presentations. I just have a few comments, not questions. To the first presenter, please specify if your literature is narrative or the other type. Okay, do not respond to that, just add it on your actual paper. Then there was a slide you covered on the implications. Please revisit it, because I've seen most of the content covering the gaps or weaknesses. Please revisit that section. Then also add a section on the gaps and implications to strengthen the quality of your paper. Then to the second presenter, Spamandla, please ensure that you organize your literature review as per the subheadings that you will derive from your set objectives of the study, so that that section comes out very clearly. Then on your last research objective, please consider changing the term investigate, because I believe it is an overarching term. Consider using terms like establish, explore, determine, identify, and so forth. Then on the theory you've employed for your study, please try to link it with your set objectives of the study, okay? Then on the methodology, it is too shallow. You just mentioned that it's a qualitative study. You did not discuss other elements forming the methodology section. Please revisit that section. We can always chat over lunch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was mainly input or feedback. It was feedback, and then I suppose that you will work on that. There is another question from Dr. Dlamini.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. For Kumalo, thank you very much for the two of you. A good presentation again. And for Kumalo, I think there is, under your methodology, I wanted to see some highlights on, because you said it was a desktop study. I wanted to see from which year to which year, because I believe you were checking a literature, but I think something is missing on. I don't think that you consulted the literature for 1985. I'm just giving an example. But I think maybe your literature is current, but it needs to show from which year to which year. And secondly, the other thing that I noted is maybe indicate the terms that we have used to gather the information. What kind of terms that we have used. And on top of that, maybe indicate a little bit to us, because I saw your findings, which came up very, very well, even under I think the challenges. One of the things, a language, maybe it might be an addition to that, a language barrier. Let me give you an example. You find that your child is sent to a school, maybe these modern schools, where isiZulu is a little bit, is not taught sometimes at all. And you find that a child has been given a homework, like to pronounce Afrikaans, words. If you are a parent, for example, who has never studied Afrikaans, what do? Because at school they expected the child to come back with a good pronunciation of the words given, but only to find that as a parent, maybe even it's a grandmother who doesn't know Afrikaans. So I think even that one would add in the challenges that are experienced. So it can be part of that. Otherwise, it's a good presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was worthwhile feedback as well. I suppose you will have time to consider that. There is another question here. If you could pass the mic to the colleague there.
Yeah, thank you so much for quite dynamic presentation from our dear students from the University of Zululand. I'm very much impressed with the kind of support and the feedback that they've also received this morning. I would like to raise just two things. One is, certain terms, I think to a point, I'm also returning to a point Dr. Dlamini made. What is rural? What is urban? Are these terms stagnant? Are they understood the same, or are we assuming we understand what they mean? Because 30 years after democracy, at least if one is optimistic, and we should be optimistic, this is our country, we're not off to Perth, we're not going anywhere. There must be a certain degree of betterment that has happened in certain areas, even if historically, traditionally, we see them as rural. So in other words, we should avoid having a sense of homogenizing the rural-urban divide. I know, this is not part of this work, but I'm just saying in general, I think we need to make this more complex because it is a complex subject. But secondly as well is, in all of them, and I could be wrong, and please forgive me if I am, I didn't get a sense of situating their thinking, their vision, their critique on what already could be provided or expected to be provided constitutionally, for instance, in this country. So when we address what we think should be there, what are we using as an ethical, a political, moral yardstick that is provided by the Constitution and other statutes that might be there. The right to education, the right to to health and other things, because all these components, they do affect this kind of research, in my view. Library work, access to reading and writing are not just removed from the socio-economic complexities of our lives. And now and then, in my view, I would love these studies to be mindful of this so that we've got a better sense of context and situating our research. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That tended to be also feedback as well as some questions. I do not know whether the presenters have something to say in response to some of the questions posed here. Yes, you want to respond, Ms. Khumalo. If you could present the roving mic to her, she wants to respond to that.
Thank you so much for the comments, and I've noted them down. With the implications, I would say it is there in the study. Maybe there was a mistake on creating the POP, but thank you so much, Dr. Mthembu. And with the literature review, thank you so much. I will amend on it and look at it. And also thanks to Dr. Lamini. I will try to consider the challenge of language barrier. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There are further questions, Prof. Gianni. There was one hand this side. I'm hoping it is still available. You wanted to say something? You will get your chance after Prof. Gianni has said something.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the colleagues that contributed. We must, I don't know whether you can hear us online. I was trying to see who is online that I'm familiar with, but Notando, I see you there. Notando is one of our students who graduated now in May 2025 with Masters, co-supervised by Dr. Mthembu. So we graduated that student. Big five. There are issues there. Thank you so much. I acknowledge you because you wanted to be here and listen and you wanted to contribute. And when we are contributing, colleagues, I am happy because most contributors are those that are supervising students. And when you contribute also, there are those that are practitioners. So we really need that to say the voice of students. Students, if you can contribute, please. But also the voice of our partners, our potential employers, and then our colleagues as academics. So that, because we know what the paper should look like. In most cases, we run for 15 minutes presentations. So we leave out other things. UKZN, I'm looking at you as well, because as a sister department, all the way from Pietermaritzburg, you will understand what I'm talking about. 15 minutes, so sometimes you just ignore other things that are in the paper. In fact, these students worked very hard. The papers are already there. So in terms of now picking and choosing 15 minutes and so on, we jumped other things, but would like to notice that they are aware, especially those that are doing literature review, Duduzo and Lwandile, that we have types of literature review, the narrative, systematic, and so on. They are aware, and the paper is indicating. So maybe when we were trying to reach the 15 minutes, we just forgot about other things and we put what we thought the audience would love to hear, yes. Number two, in terms of, so yes, Dr. Mthembu, it is them. And in the implication section, we will look at that because maybe even in the paper, we did not put it well and we will consult further. But all the papers that were presented by these students They are almost, so we're waiting for this. So thank you for that. We'll just add. In terms of what Dr. Dlamini and the colleague, okay, parents, I think Dr. Dlamini touched on that. One, when we needed to articulate, I think they are saying in the title to say maybe between 2015 and 2025, a 10-year period. We are aware of that, although we need now to go back to the actual paper and say between this time. But you would see in the presentations that as it is aligned with other students' papers that we did as a team, we were looking at 2016, especially when we were tracing the statistics, what is happening 2016, PERS 2021, you can see that we tried to do current one. We even went to the transformation charter of 2014, and I hope the former President Liasa is there, Nazim Hadi. 2014 transformation charter, we even tapped on that. So you can see that it is not, it's so that we are informed in what we're doing when we're developing these papers. So we tried current ones, but it is always good to revisit, especially because we really want Sachilis to take these papers from students and publish them. So yes, the literature is almost current, but we need to think it there. Parents,
if I
Dr.
wrap up,
Dlamini, you talked about that. You know, I think Landile talked about the fact that parents are working or parents do not have time. Most of us are working. I remember when I was still, raising children, you come back home very tired. And that is why we brought that up, because it was in the literature that we were reviewing that parents are tired. Sometimes they cannot read because they are tired. So we were raising the awareness to parents that try, even if they are tired. But also, what is important, you raise the language as well, that limited, she used illiterate parents, but I want to say limited literacy. The parents are literate. It's just that for this purpose, there is limited. Africans, isiZulu, and this, you need to support Africans literature for you, but that is a problem. That becomes a problem. So I think that has been taken care of. UNESCO, our own Liasa transformation,
Prof.
all those we thought we would.
Let's conclude the
and
question,
access,
Prof.
yes.
The comment. Thank you.
So yes,
Thank you.
yes, we are there. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
We'll take one more question and then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, please. I think the question was this, some of this side. Raise your hand if you had, was it you, Mr. Mabiga? Oh, this is the gentleman, Mabiga. Make it brief, we are behind time.
I would like to thank all the doctors and as well as Professor Gianni, Dr. Mtimbu, Dr. Dlamini, sure, Dr. Ngidi. Okay, sorry. Okay. We will take. We have taken note of your comments, and we'll try and amend where you suggested we should amend. We are very grateful. We will look into these issues and then try and have them refined in the way that is expected. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This brings to an end the session on questions and comments. I would like to ask Ms. Noktula Musa to come to the podium on something else, if she's around. Thank you very much. Let's give her an applause. She's nervous as well. Just encourage her. Yeah. Oh, you want the roving mic? I bet you'll come here. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We are happy that you are back. I know for some people they are traveling from Pietermaritzburg or Durban, and I'm really, really grateful that you are here so that we can be part of finishing this work that we started. I just wanted, we felt that there's a need for further engagement or further reflections around the reading barometer because we really want your participation, we want your inputs, especially looking at the audience that we have here. We have students, we have academics, and we have public librarians, we have got education professionals and practitioners, and we really want your inputs to influence the future direction of the National Reading Survey. So there's an exercise that we are going to do. I'm going to give Dr. Tara a few minutes. There will be some exercise that she will give to you to get your inputs. Because yesterday, I know maybe people were tired. It was our last session. But for us, it is one of the most important sessions to really, really engage you because we will not probably get a chance to engage, especially this community here in KZN. Because most of our engagements, maybe during the time when you are busy at work or when you are doing other things. So you've got the experts here. Let us engage. Let us give them what we are thinking. So I'm going to hand over to Dr. Tara.
Thank you very much, Ma. All I'm going to say is to encourage you, please. Right at the beginning of the next session, there'll be a slide with a QR code. So you can just, with your phone, capture it. It will take you directly to a set of questions where on Mentimeter, we would just really love your inputs on what questions we should be asking in the next round of the survey. If that doesn't work for you, or if you have particular things you want to share, just find myself or my colleagues Lebo and Tendai, who will be speaking now about other things, and just tell us or give us your number and we'll contact you. Just get in touch if you want to share anything, but please do use the QR code that we're going to put up on the screen now. All right, thank you very much. Chair, are we good to go with the next session? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, that was brief. We appreciate that. We love saving time. Our next session then takes us to the evaluation of literacy initiatives. I will call upon Ms. Lebohang Shilako and Tendai Jo. Are they present? Yes, please. Let's give her an applause as she comes. Or them. Let's give them an applause.
Okay, I think we might need a bit of help.
This will be a joint presentation. They will do it at the same time. I want to see how innovative that would be.
How do we get this? But Brian, can we get some help with getting our slides up? It's okay. Okay, so as Tara mentioned, we'd really love to get your inputs on what should be on the next reading survey. So if you could just scan that QR code, it shouldn't require that you put in the code, but if it does, you might need to put in that code and then leave a comment for us. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, online people. I was just saying, could you please scan this QR code, and then it will lead you to a page where you can leave all your interesting things about what you'd like to see in the next reading survey, which is a nationally representative survey, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about that. Okay. All right, so my name is Lebo. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's do that. Okay. So for the people online, we'll put this back on again at the end of the presentation. Okay. So my name is Lebo, and I'm here with my co-pilot, Tendai. So we're both directors at Social Impact Insights Africa. So we're a policy monitoring and evaluation consultancy, and we focus on education and social impact programs in South Africa. So we specialize in designing and conducting evaluations that provide evidence-based insights that drive systemic change. So that's what we try to do in the work that we do. So this is really gonna be a practitioner's reflection on what we've been seeing in evaluations, and how you go about measuring the things that matter when you're running your programs. I hope this will be useful content for the people in the room. All right, so the presentation will follow this order just so that you know where we are as we go along. So we'll cover the objective of our talk, looking back at what's been happening in terms of the programs that have been run in the education space, the types of methodologies, etc. And then we'll talk about why evaluations matter and why measurement itself matters. Then talk about what should determine what matters, and then reflect on the evaluations that we've done in the past. So this is really practitioners reflecting on what we've been seeing during evaluations. Okay.
So she's trying to say we don't have literature review.
You need to switch it on.
So basically she's trying to say we don't have literature review, so hit us on something else there.
All right, and then right at the end, we'll have an evaluation readiness checklist. So for those who are program designers or running programs, we have a set of questions. They're not exhaustive in any way, but it's like key questions to ask yourself about whether your program is ready for an evaluation. Okay, so our goal with this is to share very practical reflections on how we can make evaluations useful by measuring things that matter, as I said, right? And then Tendai is gonna take us back in time now.
So I think it's well documented by the previous speakers that so eloquently spoke about the challenges that we face with reading outcomes in South Africa. I mean, it's actually quite a painful thing if you work in the area because you see the core face of the people that are carrying this burden of not being able to read. So whilst programs have been put in place, because this is something that needs to be attended to, I think the statistics are mentioned on their own. 81% of children can't read for meaning in any language by grade 4. I mean, you know, in the early stages, children learn to read, I think from grade 1 to 3. But thereafter, they read to learn, meaning that they need to have obtained the skill to process information for meaning so that they can engage in deeper reasoning with it and make sense of it. So the challenge is that hasn't been happening. So our children get to grade 4 where content starts getting more and more intense. So now they're supposed to be learning through reading, yet they don't have the basic skills to actually do that because they were missed between grade 1, 3, and somewhere around 4. So there's something called the Matthew effect. As they continue accumulating more content, the gap between readers and non-readers actually gets wider. So it's exponentially wider, I mean, by miles and miles if you could measure it with miles. So the problem with that is that as the children grow up and pass through the grades, they are progressed, they accumulate a lot of backlogs, right? And those backlogs become a problem when they reach grade 8. Just to give you in context, we did an evaluation of a grade 8 kind of EFAL study. And what we found, it was in one of the provinces in South Africa, what we found was that more than 60% of the grade 8 learners are reading at grade 4 level. Something had to be done. That's why you see a lot of these programs were now introduced to try and deal with the problem of reading. And they covered a whole plethora of issues. And some were well structured, some were not. So there was like a rush into schools. Let's deal with these problems because they are becoming a problem, right? A nation can't progress like that. So some covered teacher training, some had teaching assistants, some had learner teaching and materials. There was instructional coaching. There was parental community involvement. So everyone was trying to find out, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. But nothing can be learned from it unless they are evaluated. So the idea was, let's evaluate these programs, let's see what we are learning out of them. And I must say that there's been an improvement in how this is done because there are some programs that were implemented that were not evaluated. So evaluation literally allows us to learn what's going on, is it working or not. So we may see these programs as programs, but behind them, there are actual real people that are battling with their future because they can't read. So our work really puts us in a privileged position to learn about, can this program really teach us what we want to learn? And can it tell us about whether we are moving the needle or not? Otherwise, it becomes a problem because so much money is spent on these programs, sometimes hundreds of millions, because some of these programs are running over 3 years. They assess more than 6,000 students, 500 teachers being trained at a point in time. At some point, we need to know, do these things work or not? So evaluation comes in and tries to find out, what have we learned? So different methodologies have been used. Initially, the focus was on test scores, but test scores are test scores. We know 81% can't read, and they can't decode, they can't do this, they can't do that. But there was a demand to understand the nuance between those scores, right? So our approaches now were becoming more in favor of mixed methods with case studies and all that stuff. So the programs that were evaluated now kind of incorporated these experimental approaches and case studies and other qualitative studies, classroom observations, so that we know the nuances that are causing the results that we are seeing. So, I haven't moved here. So, I mean, you can't improve what you can't measure. So we want to reduce that 81%. I think in 2016 it was around 87 and then started going down, COVID hit and then started going up. We should be able to measure. So evaluation enables us to measure. And evaluation ensures the efforts to improve education like reading actually lead to better outcomes for learners. It tells us what works, what doesn't, and why. There's a lot to learn from why something doesn't work. So oftentimes we realize that when it doesn't work, people are disappointed with the results of the evaluation. But evaluation is about learning why it didn't work. Because in the real world, sometimes there are forces that come through. So without it, resources can be wasted on ineffective interventions and successful efforts may go unrecognized or underfunded. I hear sometimes people coming out on TV and say this program was a success. Then we go and read, but what evidence are you using to come to the conclusion that it was a success? And so millions continue being poured in. So this means that what you measure matters. Some measure that it was participated by all the people that were in it, and so they call it a success. So what you measure actually matters, which is why we are talking about this, right? So who determines what matters? We need to find out who determines what matters, and is it always the case that what matters gets measured? Because sometimes what matters is by the side, and something else gets measured because it looks like this can land well with this audience or that audience or that audience. But our job is to really redirect efforts towards what matters. So what forces cause tension in determining what gets measured, and how do you determine what measures? What matters, sorry.
Okay. So there is a measurement challenge that exists. And it speaks to what Tanda was saying, that evaluations are either not done, or when they're done, they brought in way too late. And because it's brought in too late, so already the program has started running for a while, or it's brought in right at the end, like we're at the end of the program and we want to find out, did it work or did it not work? And now because you're doing it so late, the data that you've collected doesn't really speak to what matters. It doesn't really tell us if this works and why does it work, why does it not work. Yeah. And a lot of times as well, we find that you don't have baseline. So because you're starting so late, you didn't measure what was happening at the beginning. And here you are at the end seeing what's going on. But you can't say if it's because of your program or if things were like that from the beginning. So there's definitely a problem here in that evaluations are constrained a lot by what exists at the time that the evaluation is brought in. So the indicators, the data that you have, the reports that are written, those shouldn't be what influences what you say matters. And that's what you're seeing there in that diagram at the top. What we find is that, I don't know if you can see the cursor, if I can get to it, yeah. So what we find is that the evidence that exists becomes what we say matters. So because we collected data on the number of teachers that attended, we collected data on how long the training was, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's gonna tell us if the program worked or not. What we're supposed to do is to take a step back and decide on what matters. So we've designed the program. What about the program tells us that it has worked? And on the next slide, we'll just get into how you go about doing that and what to consider on that. But what matters should then feed into which evidence do you actually collect and what monitoring systems you put in place and how you collect your data. Okay. Okay. So what should actually determine what matters? So we're looking at 3 things that one should look at. So the first is understanding the program itself and its value proposition. So often we jump to measuring the outcomes without fully unpacking how we get to those outcomes. So it's like there's a black box here. We train a teacher, something happens inside the black box, which is magical. We don't know what it is. And then on the other side, hey, we've got teachers who are doing the most wonderful things in the classrooms and we're seeing learners improve. But we need to really unpack what's inside that black box. So with the training example, there's this assumption, of course, that you train a teacher, something is gonna happen, but we don't really measure, we don't really look at what causes that behavior change. So what's going on in this black box? We don't consider what factors will be enabling so that this change that we want to see can happen. And there's a lot of things to think about there and a lot of things that we need to learn about what makes our particular training work. So is there something about the culture within the school that the teacher is in that we need to be looking at? Are there things around time constraints within the classroom and teachers not having enough time? Is that why they might not be doing certain things in the classroom? Things around their own motivation and their own willingness to implement in the classroom, things around the availability of the materials that they're supposed to use in order to apply this training. A lot of the time, we give the training and we think that it should result in changes, but we don't really say how the change will come about. Another thing that we should consider when we're determining what should matter to us in our program is what is important to the stakeholders that are involved in our program. So our donors, what do our donors want to know? What do they care about? Because they are an important stakeholder in our program. So they might want to see more numeric things. So how many learners are reading better at the end of the program? They might be interested in that. They might be interested in how many beneficiaries there are. And then our other stakeholders as well, we need to consider that. So our teachers, what do they care about? So they might care about the manageability of their class. They might care about having too much administrative work. So when we're designing our program and how it is, we'll be collecting data about what's happening in the classroom. Maybe we shouldn't overburden the teachers too much. Maybe we need to find other ways of finding out what's going on in the classroom without putting it on the teacher. Using our own resources, like the people within our team, to sit in a classroom to see if these changes are happening and chatting to the teacher about what it is they're doing in the class. And we also need to consider what you as an organization want to learn or take away from this process. Okay. And then the third item there, so you also need to think about the context in which your program exists. So these context factors include things like time, budget, and capacity. So on the time front, how long do we have for this program to run? And does that time allow for the teething problems of implementation to settle in order for us to see what this program actually does? So do we have enough time to be implementing this project? So what we found in the evaluations that we've done is that at least the minimum of 2 years of now execution, so after the teething problems are through, you need about 2 years to start seeing the actual outcomes from your program. And a lot of times, the timelines are very short for running programs. Okay, so the budget is also something else to consider. So is your monitoring plan realistic within the resources that you've got? Can you afford to collect that monitoring data in the way that you intend to collect it? So it's good and well to say that it's good to observe teachers in the classroom, but can you actually afford to do that? What other ways can we achieve similar results and get the same indicators or data on the same indicators that works within our budgets? Then capacity as well, this is a huge issue and something that isn't considered a lot. So do we as implementers have the skills to collect high quality data? So do we know how to handle data ourselves? So many a time as researchers, we find ourselves sitting with data sets that we can't use at all because they're either on an Excel document or you're being given a whole lot of registers, and you can't use that because you first have to enter the data, which would take eons of time. So you end up not using this data. So do we have the capacity and do we have the systems in place to ensure that data can be collected and used? Another context factor to consider is the organizational culture. So does our environment, does our organization allow for adaptive learning to happen? So we're collecting data, but is it just a checkbox activity? Are we just doing it because we're told to do it? Or are we in an environment that will allow us to use this data to add value to the implementation of the program? So if we find that something doesn't work, can we go back and be like, okay, let's rethink this element of our theory of change because this doesn't work. We've been doing this for a couple of months or weeks or whatever, and this isn't working. Is there a will within our organization to work in that kind of way? Okay. All right, so the next 2 slides will be about our reflections as evaluators on things that we've seen from past evaluations. So the first thing is that a lot of times the theory of changes of programs are not defined. So either they're there and they're very wishy-washy, we don't really get at the heart of what it is we're trying to do and how we're gonna do it, or they don't exist at all, which makes it very difficult to decide on what is important. Or in some instances, there isn't a shared understanding across the entire organization that this is what we're doing and this is what we're tracking. So you'll find in one project site, they've fully understood what it is they're doing. They've collected all this wonderful data and you can make some form of evaluation on how the program is working. But you get to another site and you can't do that. But this is all one program. So for one place, you can say something. For the other, the data wasn't collected and there isn't a shared understanding. So you can't really say overall, how's the program done? And the second point there, so we need more focus on measuring behavior change. So program effects related to motivation, attitudes, behavior change, that's usually not tracked because it's very difficult to track. Yet these are the key building blocks to getting children to identify with reading before even being given the technical ability to read. So on one evaluation that we did, we were trying to get at like this motivation and attitudes of children to reading. And what we did there, and it didn't work, what we did there was to give the children a set of statements. So tell them a set of statements and then show them some smileys. So a very angry face to a very happy face in order to see where they're sitting on the motivation scale. So if you were, so in your free time, do you prefer to play with other kids or to read a book? And then we'd expect them to show us which smiley face. Do they agree or do they not agree with us? And that tended not to work well because the kids just told us, they just selected the happiest face because maybe they thought that's what we wanted them to be feeling about that statement.
There's another example where it worked,
Yes.
but it was an ECD program. This, we didn't give them anything. It was just a lesson running, and there was free play, free time. You could see kids that had enjoyment for reading rushing to the reading corner. That was so telling because this is what naturally is in them because of what they've been exposed to. So sometimes evaluations don't have time for that. But this is where the real issue is. These kids, and in one ECD, there was actually a stampede on the reading corner. Like they all rushed to the reading corner. And then we knew something was happening here in terms of enjoyment for reading. And in one ECD, that was a place that was banished. They didn't even feature anywhere. They were all at the swings. So I'm just buttressing what you're saying here, that there has to be a way to measure enjoyment for reading, but our evaluations and funders predisposed to those because they require a little more time. Yep.
Yeah, and it's okay as well to do a trial and error thing. Like we tried this one way of doing things and it didn't really work. Are there other ways of getting data about this same point or the same indicator in a different way that's actually more telling? Okay. I already spoke about the late involvement of evaluations. So what this does, I won't dwell on it too much, but that forces the evaluator to work retrospectively. So now you're asking teachers, oh, what were you doing 2 years ago? Because we weren't applying evaluative thinking from the beginning. So now we have to do things retrospectively. And people forget where it is they were sitting. Because sometimes what you see now is what you think has always been your norm. And there's limited program M&E capacity. So I think I also spoke on this where we don't have the capacity to collect the type of data that's needed in order to make a value judgment on how good the program has worked. I also mentioned the inadequate program duration. So sometimes programs are way too short for you to realize your outcomes. So a year is usually not enough. About 2 years of actual proper implementation is what's needed in order to detect these outcomes that we want to see. And there's also a problem of poor timing of programs where, due to a variety of pressures, implementers and donors start programs at an inconvenient time. And that doesn't allow for you to collect true baselines. So in the end, you're working with like midline data, but you really don't know what happened at baseline because of when the program itself started. So if we are applying evaluative thinking in our design phase of our programs, that should solve some of these issues because you're already thinking evaluation as you design your program.
In fact, there's one program, very huge program, quite expensive. Often they take so much money, right? And it was started at the most inconvenient time and baselines could not be collected. Can you imagine the complexity of the methodology that evaluations have to think about? Because at the end of period time 2, you need to have a comparator for period time 1. And you don't have that because the thing was started really late and just emphasizing there were no baselines. So, I mean, another thing that we notice is that because we are dealing with serious national issues like your inability to read or poor reading outcomes, often these solutions that are tested at these programs need to be scaled up for them to have some kind of a national system level effect. But sometimes the designs do not allow for scale up because the designs are not amenable to being done at a higher scale. Maybe because of the activities of the program. For example, where programs are require specialized skills that are not available system-wide. How do you implement this shift at a system level? For example, some programs like instructional coaching, it turns out is a very specialized skill. And it's been found to work, but it can be scaled out at a system level because there's very few instructional coaches. And they are usually external, making it very expensive. Other programs that are focused on individual tutorship and whatever, how do you scale up such things? It becomes very difficult. So the program becomes only effective at a micro scale, but not at a macro scale. So this whole evaluative thinking she was talking about needs to be taken into consideration right at the beginning when you are actually designing these. And another thing that's interesting is what we are calling program fatigue. Jump in there if you have other examples. So what we have seen is that we get into a school, there are 5 programs running, or there were X number of programs that were run. And teachers are overprogrammed. Principals are exhausted with people coming in. Learners are over-assessed. That is a problem for us as evaluators when we come with yet another program to evaluate. And you're talking to teachers, you can see that they are tired now with so many interviews, so many this and that. Is that a sign for us to stop? No? So what ends up happening now is that as evaluators, methodologically, you have a nightmare. There's cross-program contamination. You can't talk about attribution. Oh, this happened because of that. Because guess what? Multiple programs dealing with similar things have been implemented. Now we can't even learn what worked, what didn't work. What was the cause, what was the effect? And so this calls for some kind of collaboration. I must say, over the years, it has improved. So there's donor collaboration, there's provincial collaboration, district level collaboration, so that programs are actually considered the context of previous programs that existed. Give you an example. We went to one school and there were 3 maths programs. And the teacher, is that time up? 5 minutes. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. And the teacher was implementing 3 methodologies in one lesson. And we observed that and we said, wow, what level of skill is this? She did very well. But I promise you that can be replicated at a high scale because teachers bet with those things, right? So there's congested programming. I think it's something that we have seen, like programs that try to do too much to the extent that you can't tell what's the head, what's the tail. One example of one program, it had in-class teacher support, in-class learner support, out-of-class, the same students, learners, out-of-class afternoon program support, reading clubs, then there was a review of books. I mean, it looks like it's something nice and integrated, but I tell you it's a nightmare to evaluate because you don't know what the cause, the effect is. So there's also issues of capacity to implement. Oftentimes you see that implementing organizations sometimes are specialized in material development, but the program also involves another specialist skill. To avoid having multiple partners, so funders appoint one service provider who is doing books very well, but they can't do coaching because they are still learning it. So they still need a year to learn coaching. And then in the second year, the program has to end. That's just when they are supposed to do well. But we know 2 years is what is needed. There's a whole lot of other things that we touched on that we won't have time to look at. I think we can skip this one. Yeah. Yeah, we can skip the next. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. So we've tried to put together a set of questions or things that might be useful to think about in order to say whether you're measuring what matters within your own program and to see if you are evaluation ready. So it's 3 areas again: program intent, buy-in, and capacity and skills. So I'll just go through some of these questions. So on program intent, one of the questions you can ask yourself is, are the project's goals and objectives clearly defined, and are they measurable? Is there a clear definition of what success is for you? Is there an understanding of why an evaluation is needed? Have key stakeholders been identified, and have they been engaged in the evaluation planning process? And are you measuring the right things? So is the way that you are measuring things within your program, is it contextually relevant for you to get what you need and to understand that particular indicator or that data point? And have you applied evaluative thinking in your program design? So from how you designed your program, are you thinking about, okay, this is what the evaluation is gonna tell us at the end of the day, and this is what we should be monitoring ourselves even before bringing in an external evaluator or to even do our own internal evaluation? On buy-in, is there already strong leadership support within your organization or the program for the evaluation process? And do you have the necessary resources, including personnel, funding, data? Is all of that available for the evaluation? Are your stakeholders informed about the evaluation and its purpose? And a major one, is there a culture within your organization that values evidence-based decision-making? So can you actually make use of your evaluation or make use of whatever data you'll be collecting as part of your monitoring efforts? And then the last one, capacity and skills. Do we have the systems in place to collect, manage, analyze, and use program data? And do we have mechanisms in place to manage our progress and provide feedback to the implementing team? So we're not just collecting data for the sake of collecting data. Are there ways that, do we know how to use this data and give feedback back to our implementing teams on what needs to be done better or what needs to be done a bit more? And that is it.
Okay, I asked them to stay put because we're now going to discussion. I hope we've been following this dynamic presentation. Let's give them one more applause, please. I was impressed with that. Thank you very much. Questions, comments, discussion?
Morning. I'm Bernardo Marla, for those that don't know me. In my past life, I worked for probably one of the biggest NGOs in the world, right? And one of the things, and I was speaking to the ED as well, because I'm from the National Library, I'm the chairperson there, is it is good to see the representation in the room. However, I have one concern. And the biggest concern I have is the National Department of Education is not here. That is my biggest concern, because we're dealing with reading, and the issues which you have raised it's actually important. When I used to work for those particular NGO, you find in one school which 5, 6, same NGOs doing almost the same thing, right? And that is the reality of the field outside. And one of the things which I was discussing with some of the staff which were here, I say, it's important that we somehow, over the next 3 months, get all the role players together so that we can streamline approaches and how we deal with this particular process of reading. But we need to get the National Department also involved, because there's a lot of duplication happening currently in the space. But the primary role player in terms of reading, is not here. Secondly, in one of my years of studies back, I studied in the issues, looking at the issue of science and technology, and to see where South Africa is one of my dissertations. And we were, out of 48 countries, 47th. So that's a huge gap. But what I've come to realize also in your analysis of the process is absolutely right, is that when you look at where is the focus is more on monitoring. There is very little evaluation taking place.
That's true.
And in fact, there is another leg which we are not even looking at, that is learning. Because whatever you have evaluated should ultimately live into learning and the adaptability of the program going forward. And so there's a huge concentration on monitoring, but the other two legs are missing. And that I've seen all across everywhere. And it's important that if we want to make a difference in this space, those are the two important legs. But the biggest leg, and which I agree with you, many people just delve into this thing without having a baseline. And if you don't have a baseline, you are shooting somewhere in the sky, hoping to get something. And so it's important that we need to start looking strategically, not only as a national library and other government, and also civil society, but we need to put our heads together in terms of how we move this process forward. So this is a thought which I wanted to share.
Now, colleagues, bear with us. I've asked somebody to help us with the noise coming from outside here. We're being drowned. So there's a truck, I'm told that they are trying to clear some drain, therefore, which means they will be with us for some time. If we could be patient concerning that, you can take it over and respond to the question.
You can go ahead. Do you need a mic? Yeah?
One more.
Yeah.
Thank you. It stopped for me. Thank you for a great presentation. I've been lucky to work with both of you before and know the thorough and approach that you take. So on the point of Chair Marilak's point of learning, I wondered if I could put you on the spot a little bit and reflect. You've seen a lot of literacy interventions at different ages, and there's no one silver bullet or anything, but I did wonder if there's things that stand out to you as what is working or what has come out to work in terms of boosting, I suppose, reading results if we're here for reading. So one or two things, knowing it won't be comprehensive, but what can we take away? You've seen a lot. What can we learn from what you've seen?
If there is another question, we are happy to take it.
A third question, they will take a third question and respond to all of them at once. No, I don't see any other. You can proceed.
Okay, I'll try and respond to what you mentioned. Thank you for sharing your experience there. Yeah, the Department of Education has been doing a lot in this space. Maybe it's a question of collaboration around things like the Reading Summit. They've got a Reading Indaba, they've got a what. But I know that a lot of collaboration has started taking place. At least from a donor level, there is a donor fund, because these programs are funded by donors, right? So if donors meet and decide this should be the focus that we should have and who's working in this place, etc., somehow it should kind of resolve, but it's a difficult thing because there's funding related to it and some NGOs might not want. But there's a good example of a donor that combined 3 organizations. Was it 3? You were involved in it. An amazing program. So there was an organization that was dealing with cultivating a joy and interest in reading. Another one was supplying books. Another one, I can't remember, training teachers, ECD teachers. When the collaboration happened, it was beautiful. And I think also affordable for the funder because they're bringing people together. But I completely agree with you. There is need for more collaboration. There is need to cross lines and say, okay, we are going to talk to these people, we're going to talk, so that we have a system level kind of effect. In fact, the donors have moved from just program level focus to system level focus. So what is being funded mostly right now are things that can be done at a systemic level because the issues are not programmatic, they're actually systematic. Whole education system level. My colleague Tara is involved with some of that at a provincial level, several provinces. So yeah, I completely agree with your perspective on that. And yes, it's true. Lots of monitoring. She spoke about it. Is there a culture of using evidence for decision making? Is there a culture of stop, pause, reflect? Even global organizations. I work for a global organization in all the countries in the world. And my master's paper was based on that. We are good at running on the ground and doing humanitarian stuff. And we spend so much money on evaluations, but do we pause, stop, think, and reflect, and learn and improve? So it's often monitor, and then we talk about monitoring results because we have nothing else to talk about. Yeah, do you want to talk about the next one?
Yeah, so on the things that we've seen work, so Tendai mentioned the collaboration thing. So what we've seen work quite well is where the expertise of the people involved, they're like experts in book provision, they're experts in training teachers. Where those are leveraged, the programs tend to work quite well, where there's deep experience as opposed to bringing someone in because, well, they're good in one thing, so they must do the whole thing. But like having people actually work in the areas of expertise, that's tended to work well. And then in the early grade space, and I'd also say in the ECD space, what we've seen as being quite effective is coaching. So walking alongside a teacher, understanding what their motivations are, helping them through that change process. That typically results in those changes in the classroom. So that coaching, that, I don't want to call it hand-holding, but just being there for a teacher and walking alongside them, that tends to work quite well. So not just dumping resources and dumping information, but actually working with them through the process of using that.
So there is a famed study that coined the term triple cocktail in terms of what works. So they found that coaching, teacher training, and provision of learning, teaching, and support materials, including scripted lesson plans, kind of systematically it moved the needle in terms of improved reading outcomes. So a lot of the programs you'll see have those things now: coaching, learning, teaching, and support materials, teacher training, and teachers being taught how to use LTSMs in class, and then being coached. So those things have tended to kind of shift the needle. But another thing is teachers are burdened with large classes, a heavy syllabi. So there's the role of teaching assistants in the classroom. So there are several evaluations that have been done that actually indicated that when teachers are given that help, then they can concentrate on the substantive issues of differentiated approaches to their struggling learners, and better results came out of that. So that's an area that's going big. But scripted lesson plans also, some are opposed to them, but they have been put as part of this triple cocktail to kind of structure teacher interactions as they go along. But the major thing that remains a question mark is how dense the curriculum is. So that still remains a big question mark.
Okay, thank you. Are there any last minute comments, questions? One. That should be the last one. Then we can go for tea after that. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much, Chair. Maybe I should start by saying, when we are given an opportunity to present, it is always good to listen as audience and offer comments. I'm saying this specifically for students. They are young and they are our future. So they should be given time to respond as you are responding, so that they go back there without being humiliated or disappointed, and improve so that they are better scholars. At least in the department, that is what we do, to give priority to students without rushing them. Evaluation that you've been talking about is very important. You evaluate a program because you want to go back and improve the program. I think what you are saying, you quoted the 81% due to the report that we received in 2021. And I think it has been going across many of the presentations, even the presentations of the students that I'm advocating for, to say, in our department, we really make time aside for students to be good presenters as we are doing. And now you said you wanted to improve, that should be improved. It's because you are doing evaluation and you want to go back. I also mentioned a PhD student that is studying on teacher teacher centers, and I think one of our colleagues said, oh, those are educational centers. And this is related to, and I wish she was there, because what you are saying is what we are doing in research. So it is very important to listen to you and also offer comments. I wouldn't want to, students to be shut down. It just breaks my heart. But in the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, I think what you are doing relates, because we also look at, we say reporting is very important. Reporting is very important because we want to go back and say what we are reporting, how do we improve? Even research for students, as they are reporting and they are giving feedback and comment, they need to go back so that they learn and improve, So that is very important, because I've taken so many things from your presentations and how you evaluate programs, specifically for teachers, because it relates to our students and we need to go back there. So what you are doing is very important. And the way you are putting it, I wouldn't read the report in your absence and understand it, but now you are here. That is why I am happy that you are presenting it, so that you are giving time to understand as you are unpacking. So that is very, very important. I would like to say thank you for that, because we are also improving as researchers and also as supervisors, because students may choose what you are doing, and so let us be given time to say what we want to say, and so that we can all benefit, I think one of the students will do that. In fact, I got the message now as I was commenting on a student there to say, I wish I was there to listen to what they are saying now. So do that, and please, colleagues, audience, provide comments, especially for students and presenters, so that we all learn. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I would like to have that report.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know how. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the reflections. We are happy to engage further. I think practitioners' perspectives are important to bridge the gap between academic research and practice. And so, yeah, we are happy to engage. We can talk after, but thank you for the kind words. Thank you, colleagues. If there are no further questions.
Is there another question? Let's make it please.
I was just asking myself, in the absence of a baseline, the adaptability of the program is compromised, because you then use a one-fit-all process, and at the end of the day, you get to the process that because you just don't have it, you actually evaluate or monitor with nothing. And I think one of the things that students can learn from this process is whatever project they starts with a baseline. Because that baseline will determine, and I'm taking KwaZulu-Natal for an example, and I'm not going to say which international company I used to work, NGO, but there was a huge difference between implementing programs in Pinetown and implementing programs in Oklatamba. Right? Because of the baseline, it meant that the baseline which you obtained, you had to adapt that program in terms of that. So you would say, but both are rural. But the rural dynamics of both differs. And that is important, because adaptability of the program starts with the baseline which you obtain. And in the absence of that baseline, and many of the projects which you relate to, it's actually compromises the program from the outset. And you're not going to get the results which you actually need. And so, taking that as a learning to say, whatever, don't be in a haste. Obtain quality baseline, because a quality baseline actually brings quality results when you start to evaluate, and you're going to get the learnings which you need to get. All right, so just advice.
And I just add to that by saying it's not all doom and gloom. So if you don't have a baseline, you started a program, you don't have a baseline, it's not the end. Just start now. Like you now know that you need to be collecting data, you need to be collecting evidence. So just start at the point that you're at. So don't just leave it until the end because you don't have a baseline.
Additionally, you can actually adapt your methodologies, right? So it moves from being an impact evaluation to being maybe a cross-sectional. It doesn't quite give you the same thing, but it tells you something. So it's not all doom and gloom. So you're forced to then, that's why we were talking about measuring what matters, right? So it moves from measuring the impact, which is the outcomes that you want, to just having a cross-sectional kind of evaluative study. Thank you.
Sorry that and just to add, because I want to give them advice also. Just to add is, sometimes you don't need to do your own baseline because there's other baselines that has been done, which is actually secondary baselines which you can bring in and then use it to formalize your base. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you need to make sure you adapt the wheel to what you need to do.
Thank you.
Thanks. That speaks really well to what I wanted to say is that there are something that, again, if the DBE were here, they could tell us about, but they are developing reading benchmarks for, well, I think it's across the provinces, I'm not 100% sure, all the age groups. But there are, so then you can compare your results to that provincial, even that district benchmark, how the average children in those areas are performing. Are you doing better? So even if you didn't know where you started, you can see if you're above average. And in a project that we were involved in, we didn't think it was a literacy intervention. The research literature shows that better reading results in better numeracy. So only at the end did we think, oh, maybe we should measure numeracy as well. You'll be familiar with this. We didn't have the baseline for our numeracy, but we had the provincial, rural, or those, what the kind of compatriots of those children are, how they're doing in numeracy. And we could see that our kids were doing a lot better. And so that gave us reason to believe that there was impact. So yeah, those national benchmarks or standards are really helpful if you don't already consult them. See if you can use that to know how you're doing against the norm. And sorry, my last comment was that we've talked a lot about classrooms, but there are a lot of librarians here, and I think there's a lot of similar challenges in terms of overburdening, focusing on lots of age groups and how do you adapt your specialization, too many programs, but then also what you mentioned works. It also, I think, would be applicable to the library environment in terms of assistance, more materials, more coaching, more training. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that that's applicable in the library space as well.
You can respond to that?
Yes, thank you. About secondary sources of data, I must give kudos to the Department of Basic Education. We work with them a lot. They've commissioned a lot of studies, and the data is available, right? They share it on platforms like DataFirst. So they are trying to create a pool of data from which you can pull baselines from. And these are usually quite thorough and rigorous, you know? Even the RCTs, the randomized control trials, that data is available somewhere for anyone who's doing those studies to say, okay, let me see for this area. It might not necessarily be national sometimes, but there is a reading study that was done across the country by the Department of Basic Education. So that data will be available, so that's a very valid point, sir. And so it's not all doom and gloom. It's expensive to collect primary data, so if it's there on a secondary platform, that's the way to go because it's been tested and the DBE tries to run these over a long period of time and they are available.
On the benchmarks, so those are available in all languages, so all 11 official languages, and they are for grade 1 to 3. So unfortunately, that isn't there for the interzen phase, unfortunately.
Okay, it's 10:40 now. Thank you for a dynamic presentation and for the questions that have been posed and for the answers that have been given. We've all gained so much from your experience, and I can see that you've been doing it for quite a while. Let's give them an applause for the last.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much. So it's time for break. We'll come back at 11 for the next session. Please, thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. partners and friends, thank you for journeying with us throughout the week. I think together we have reaffirmed that this summit must not become a talk shop, that the time has come for us today to move from our words to a meaningful action. And what has began as a reading summit, it might have looked as merely a conversation, but it was a spark for a collective vision, a rallying point for change and renewed commitment to building a reading culture that reaches every corner of South Africa. So today, as we approach the last day, we take a critical step from moving from dialogue to delivery. In a moment, Dr. Zungu will present key resolutions that emerged from our summit deliberations. We might have missed some, and we'll be calling on you to also make additions. These resolutions are not theoretical. They are grounded on realities and urgent needs raised by our presenters, educators, and all of us who presented and deliberated here. So I encourage each of you to reflect not only on what was said, but on what was also an observation through our interaction. To this end, we will be establishing a multi-stakeholder working team as our resolution 1. Hopefully to be composed of representatives from the Department of Education, our local municipality, and many other municipalities that will engage going forward. We'll also include LIASA and the National Library, while we also will be calling on the private sector. These teams will lead and charge in implementing specific resolutions, from expanding libraries to research, while most importantly, we'll also be developing pathways for facilitators and also digital literacies or IT. So we'll also be looking at how do we use studies from the barometer that was just presented here today, and also PELS, because in most cases we are given these results or we are given this data, but we have no specific plans to actually respond to what is given to us. So we'll also be looking into all those. As part of our institutional commitment, Tsegofatso and myself will represent the National Library of South Africa as coordinators, and Dr. Zungu will coordinate for the university. We still need a coordinator within the municipality, the department. So those are specifics that we'll do today. So resolution number 1 in terms of nominating coordinators will happen here today, so that then when we leave, we are not looking around for someone hidden somewhere. We know who we are looking for. So we'll also welcome Mayor Julia Norris to give an expansion on one of the digital libraries that we also made the resolution toward access to digital materials. So let us also remember that what we implement today must stand the test of time. We are not just launching projects, we are building legacy projects that will shape South Africa's reading landscape for generations to come. So we must not do manga business. So whatever we're going to make as a resolution and adopt, here. It must be something that we are going to deliver, not something that is by the way, we're still going to think about it. So assist us as our scriber will be recording all that. So let this session be one of collaborative energy, shared ownership, and concrete planning. Because when we move ideas to action together, we transform reading from goal into a lasting national movement. So, Dr. You can come and present the resolutions. Thank you very much.
Greetings, colleagues. I'm Kosing Pilezungu. I'm very happy to be part of this event and especially taking part in the very important session where we need to focus on the practical implementation of these ideas we have been sharing in the past 2 days, because we do not need to gather ideas and let them sit there as theoretical ideas without practical implementation. In our introduction, we observed that for several years, the learner performance for meaningful has been concerned with international assessment, pointing to low illiteracy levels. For example, the progress in international reading literacy study highlights that 81% of grade 4 learners in South Africa struggle with reading comprehension. The year 2025 National Reading Summit received reports and explored implementable solutions to improve literacy in the country. There are resolutions that we observed based on the presentation that were shared here. And I hope that we'll be able to work and get committed in ensuring that these resolutions are truly implemented. The resolution number 1, collaboration for parental and community mobilization and support. We noted that the lack of coherent plan and reporting, as well as poor community involvement in initiatives to support literacy improvement. We also noted the success in the mobile library initiative in the community mobilization. Well, as a resolution, we hope to establish dedicated collaboration plans of municipalities, DSAC, DOE, HEIs, NGOs, and private sector aimed at the community mobilization to support literacy improvement, and also to strengthen the use of social media to promote the mobile library community engagement programs. Well, we need to practically implement this because we don't have to preach without practical implementations. To implement this, we hope to establish working teams right here that will involve the stakeholders who are also present here. Resolution number 2, the provision of multimedia resources for promoting reading for meaning. We noted the absence of bilingual, age-appropriate, and culturally relevant learning and library materials compounded with the inadequate preparedness of teachers to deliver on bilingual education. As a resolution, the development of culturally, linguistically, and age-appropriate teaching and learning materials is recommended. Also, the introduction of bilingual education approaches at a teaching and training institution. We have to practically implement this, and we hope that the digital library that provide access to collections of quality reading resources can be provided. Resolution number 3, research, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. we noted that the research result that the youth engage well in social media content platforms, however, lag behind in academic and meaningful context. And to resolve this, we recommend that further research aimed at identifying strategies, content, and approaches to re-engage the youth in academic and meaningful content, thus develop lifelong reading and numeracy skills. Also, to improve access to technology and through libraries, including training on utilization and integration of artificial intelligence tools. I hope that we'll be able to practically implement this using research capacity building, publication of summit presentation. Colleagues, these resolutions were observed as we were noting them sitting down, but colleagues are welcome to add some more recommendations or some more resolutions on the discussed resolutions. You can also add the resolution you think is relevant towards improving the reading culture. Resolution number 4, capacity development and advocacy reading to support boy children. It was noted in the summit report that boy children tend to lag behind in various literacy and numeracy assessments. To deal with this, we hope that to establish interdependent forums, interdepartmental forums, communication plans and initiatives aimed at improving the performance and participation of boy children in literacy and numeracy. And to practically implement this, we hope that partnering with Nalibali, specifically in the men's literacy imbizo, and other partners can also help practically deal with the problem. Resolution number 5, the policy implementation. We noted the lack of comprehension by learners emanating from the lack of perpetual dominance of English and Afrikaans as language of learning and teaching and assessment in South African schools. Also, the emergent need for a pedagogical shift to mother tongue-based bilingual education. And to practically implement this, we hope the digital literacy cloud, focusing on indigenous knowledge and the digitization of SA Classic, can help us practically face this problem. Colleagues, we have opened the ground for some more resolutions. If you have noted, if you have some more resolutions we can add based on the observation you had as well as the resolution, so that we can collaboratively work on this together. We hope that by starting today to work together, we can practically face these challenges. I have here these resolutions from 1 to 3, with the hope that colleagues, you can help add some more resolutions. If you have any, we can open the floor for some more resolutions. We hope that by establishing working teams, we can work together and solve these and work on these recommendations in our respective teams. Maybe if Mr. Marcus, we can open a floor by the show of hand, if we can see colleagues who would be interested in joining the teams on digital libraries, research capacity building and publication of summit presentation papers, partnering with Nalibali, digital literacy cloud, as some more recommendations or resolutions. But to clarify on the first resolution on the digital library, I wish to ask Ms. Narish to clarify for us what does the digital literacy cloud or digital library entails and how we can use it to face the issue of access to the reading resources.
Do you want me to come up or you can stay here?
Please.
I'll just stand maybe here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think this was in response to, it came up as you heard yesterday, many people saying there's an issue of access to resources. It is an area I'm familiar with, so we need to do it thoughtfully and carefully. We know that simply creating a platform or a space doesn't equal access. You also need to drive users to it and make it relevant. There's also issues around data, and so how can we look at making a collection of resources that are either openly available to reuse and share with users, librarians, and the public. But if they don't have access to data or devices, we need to think around that. We need to pilot with a few collections and see how do we, what's the infrastructure we need to build, and how do we drive people to that. I think the other thing that I really want for this working team to think around is oh, I've lost my train of thought. It's the end of the conference. No, it's gone. But I really want us to think about what it really exists. Oh, it's an amazing opportunity for partnerships because it's partnering with content creators, it's partnering with publishers, it's bringing up existing books that the National Library has facilitated through the community publishing programs that they have, but there's also opportunity to partner with the Department of Basic Education because I know they're also tackling how we increase access. So there's a lot of, and it talks to the last resolution of increasing Indigenous language presence, visibility, value, publication, and it's a kind of that virtuous cycle of if we increase and expose access, it will drive people to have more interest, and that should lead to more writing, more development, more publication, and we can really take South Africa forward in terms of that resolution. So if there's anyone here, I don't know, I wasn't instructed to do this, but I'm a natural campaigner, I think. If there's anyone here who's interested in joining that working group and helping us think how do we really offer something valuable as the library education space where people can go and find resources and navigate them by language, by theme, by age group. So I know things like that exist already, so we don't want to reinvent the wheel either, and let's pay attention and work together. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. Yeah. Colleagues, there could be some more stakeholders who might be involved in the implementation of these resolutions. Here I've noted municipalities and those stakeholders whom are currently with us here. There could be some more stakeholders which you may think of, and would appreciate if or by a show of a hand you indicate if there are other stakeholders we may involve in these resolutions. I don't want to waste any further time. If colleagues can, by a show of a hand, just add or contribute some more resolutions you think may have been left out. We were able to note these resolutions, but we believe there are some more resolutions you may come up with. And before or after we note these resolutions, it would be good to develop these working teams that will be working on these resolutions.
I think one of the most important ones is the issues around collaboration that we need to streamline. That has to be one of the implementation processes that we need to look at. Because otherwise we continue to work in silos, using the same space while when we collaborate, we can actually do much more. So I think one of the most important is, in terms of implementation, is to look at collaboration across the board on certain specific areas that we need to have as well as one of the implementation processes.
Thank you very much. Collaboration and partnership have been highlighted several times, of course. And we believe with these working teams that will be fostering the achievement of resolutions, collaboration will be emphasized. Any resolution? Yes, Ms. Narish?
Sorry, it's the last thing I'll say, but something I noticed, it's not my area of expertise, but I heard a call for professional development within the library space, particularly in service, short courses, opportunities for specialization in certain areas. And I think the ones that came up were children's literature and kind of special educational needs. How do you provide for library users who have special needs throughout all ages? So that's in terms of, I suppose, a different kind of accessibility and professional development. Sounds like it would be a valuable resolution coming out of this.
Oh, great. Yeah. It looked like for now we do not have additional resolutions, but I wish to open up to the floor. I have added myself there under digital libraries. Mr. Hofacho, who's currently writing notes. Mr. Marcus is added there by virtue. By show of hand, if you like to be part of this team, you can just raise up your hand. If you like to be part of, yes, yes, you can nominate. A mic there, please.
Can I nominate to Mr. Lolo? Because we also need participation from the public librarians. I'm not sure from education, maybe if they can also nominate someone.
Ms. Tsechofacho and Ms. Chelezi, please note for us. And the first resolution, Mr. Lolo nominated. Yes.
Yeah, no, thanks and greetings to all of colleagues. We want to submit two colleagues who are already working with the digital library in the directorate. Mr. Zondi and Sakiwo, Mr. Maluleka.
Are they present here?
No, we are submitting them. They will be connected.
Mr. Zondi and Mr. Maluleka. Yes. Which institution, sir?
Education.
Education. Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, noted. They are noted at the back.
Good day. Speaking is Pumlan Jangu. Colleagues, I'm not sure if I will be derailing the process. I have an opinion that is it possible this process to cascade it to the interest group where public librarians normally meet and allow them to discuss, because I think they are the one who are on the ground who will be able to successfully implement these resolutions. It's just a suggestion. Thank you.
So please take care of the comment. Yeah, I would not want to pass the buck. However, as we implement, invite other stakeholders around the country. But for implementation purposes, so that then we start, we cannot live here saying that we'll see other people. So we'll invite those people. I think once the team and the report from the summit is out, there will also be a call for any other parties, because the idea is to build a multi-stakeholder implementation team, because this is a national summit. So we'll call in on other people who will come and join us. But then we hear what you say, so the call will also include calling in on those segments in the LIS sector and other sectors, obviously.
We also recognize our online audiences, and we'll check the chat box very soon. If there's something pending, please also write in the chat box. We will check. For now, resolution 1. If the current team members of the resolution 1, it seems I'm not receiving any new member. All right, can I move on to the resolution 2 on research capacity building, publication of summit presentation papers? By a show of hand, can I see interested members? I note a hand, Dr. Hadlamini's hand there. I'm not sure whether Dr. Hadlamini wants to say something or please, a mic there.
We're just volunteering, Doc.
Okay, the name and institution?
University of Zululand and the University of KwaZulu-Natal.
Name and institution, please, so that we can record down the members. Can I have the name and institution so that we can record down?
UniZulu.
Yeah, please, Jehofacho, note.
Mpilo Mthembu, UniZulu.
Usianda Keswa, UKZN.
Rachel Williams.
Sorry?
Rachel Williams. From George Municipality.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Research and capacity building, publication of summit presentation papers. Any new members? Students, don't you wish to be part of this? Okay. All right, it seems no new hands. I'm moving on to partner with Nalibali, Men's Literacy Imbizo, and other partners. Could be Nalibali and the other unmentioned partners relevant for the promotion of reading culture among boys, which was observed as another critical problem. Young boys have a serious reading problem. And I wish to be a member in this team. Please, Mr. Rofato, add my name, NM Zungu from UniZulu. Yeah. Any new hand there at the back? Oh, Prof. Mafude. But I wish to hear a member calling his name without me recognizing.
Would like to nominate Siyabonga Mjali from eThekwini Municipality.
Siyabonga Mjali, eThekwini Municipality. Resolution number 2, partner with Nalibali and other partners. Whoever assisting me with the mic, please do pass a mic there.
Mr. Tandalani Mavundla, DOE.
DOE. Sorry, once again.
Mr. Mavundla.
Mr. Mavundla. A mic here at the front, please.
I would like to nominate Peggy Mdleja.
Once again.
Peggy Mdleja from Jozini Municipality.
Peggy Mdleja from Jozini. A mic here, please. Here at the front. Yes, here. Good. Prof. Maf. Prof. Maf, yes.
You want my name?
Yes.
Lucas Mafu.
Please note there.
Lucas Mafu, Lucas. Lucas Mafu, MAF.
And the institution?
UNIZUL.
In other hands? Some more hands. Digital, I'm now, colleagues, moving on to the next resolution on digital cloud, indigenous knowledge, where we recommended digitization of SA Classic. With a show of hand, a mic here in the middle. Please note there.
Use it.
Dlamini, use it.
Use it again.
Sianda Keswa, UKZN.
Mina, from National Library, I'm nominating Stanley Maninjwa and Mandla Mona.
Once again.
Stanley Maninjwa and Mandla Mona on digital literacy resources.
Thank you.
Local Municipality from University of Zululand.
Sorry, Mr. Sorry.
I'd like to nominate Kalipa Kumalo, Slindile Mchunu, and Nomagugu Mpanza, uMhlathuze Municipality.
Please pardon.
I'd like to nominate Kalipa Kumalo, Nomagugu Mpanza, and Slindile Mchunu, uMhlathuze Municipality.
Which municipality?
uMhlathuze.
Mlalazi. Nomagugu, please write.
Nomagugu Mpanza and
Nomagugu Mpanza.
Yes, Kalipa Kumalo.
Kalipa Kumalo.
And Slindile Mchunu.
Silindile Mchunu.
Yes.
From Mlalazi.
I would also like to nominate Noma Ngobo from eThekwini Municipality.
Noma Ngobo.
Ngobo, yes.
Yeah, Noma Ngobo, eThekwini Municipality. Noma
Lungelo Ngobo.
NOMA, Noma. Oh, Noma Lungelo. Noma, NOMA, Noma. Digital literacy cloud, mainly indigenous languages, the digitization of SA classics. Colleagues, we are voluntarily committing ourselves to these resolutions. Any more hands? If there is a resolution you feel that you need to join, among we have already read, you can still raise a hand. You can still show a hand. Mr. McCarthy? Yeah, I think you can now come. I think to discuss a way forward. I'll read them for the last time. The resolutions we have is digital library. Firstly, let me clarify that we are working as a team because it has been emphasized several times that collaboration and partnership will take us far, and that's how we can achieve practical implementation of these resolutions, through collaboration and partnership. That's why we are working on these resolutions as teams from different institutions. We have digital library, research capacity building, partner with Nalibali and others, digital literacy cloud, which include digitization of SA Classic. If there is an additional resolution you think it is left out, please do, with a show of a hand, help us add that resolution. I see a hand there. A mic there, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think we missed out something when we were nominating on the digital literacy cloud. We believe that the Department of Arts and Culture in the province at least should be represented there. So I therefore nominate Mzozuma.
The name, please?
Mzozuma. Mzomuhle Zuma.
Mzomuhle Zuma and Digital Literacy Cloud. Thank you very much for that. It's really interesting to nominate members based on their affiliation. Yeah. Dr. Marcus? Yeah. Please. Guide us.
No, thank you very much. We congratulate the members who have made it into the multi-stakeholder teams to be coordinated by Zofa. So maybe you can just stand up so that they see you, so that before you leave here, you have all the details of everyone, emails and their numbers. The whole idea is that in the next 2 years, towards the coming summit, we'll be doing all this work, so that then we come and showcase what we have done between today and the next summit. So there will be a presentation specifically on these resolutions. From here, we will publish the resolutions and make a call to others in the sector and the rest of the country to come and join us. And we'll then begin with work, planning meetings, and on the implementation of these specific activities. So I want to wish you well. I and Dr. Zung and Tsofaz will be in all the meetings to ensure that there is progress, and we are able to also report continuously on what has been achieved. I believe there's a whole lot of other people who will join us. We'll make the call through the Liaisa in Touch and through other platforms, through the NLSA website. And obviously, we'll share with stakeholders who will also share the same call with their staff. So I believe that this will be a very big group, and everyone will have something to do. What is important is that at the end, when we come here, is it in 2027, we'll then be able to actually say, this is what we have done. So there's no talk shop. We call on young people also in the LIS sector to also join, because I think we ran this wonderful project where we actually teaching presentation skills, and I think that should continue as part of also supporting research. And I think the next part will be on how to actually write papers on what was presented. That's why I'm actually encouraging you colleagues to also join, so that then you are continuously supported until what you have presented here is actually published. On that note, I think we've come to the end. And some of us, please just so that they see you, they know you, okay. Make sure that everything is recorded. We are not looking for a number with a zero short. and then we're looking for someone. Thank you very much. We can now. Yeah, we'll see that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for the participation and the voluntary commitment to these resolutions. In terms of the program here, I have to call Mrs. Musa to come give us a vote of thanks. Thank you very much, colleagues. A lady who nominated Kumalo and Mchunu, may you please say Jehofato before you leave.
Thank you very much, Program Director. And first of all, my list is long. There's a lot of people that we must thank. This journey started about 2.5 years ago when we were planning for this Reading Summit. So I've got several people that I must acknowledge. First of all, I would like to thank the National Library of South Africa board, especially the board chair, who took time to come and spend 3 days with us, engaging the audience and participating fully, and all the support that we are getting from the board in the work that we do at the National Library. So we are really, really grateful. And we also want to thank all the board members and the chair of our committee, core and finance committee. Mr. Masuku is also present here, and the chair of the HRM core who is present here, and member Ms. Norrish and other board members, and for all their support and the present in this Reading Summit. I also want to thank my ex-colleagues and our CEO, interim CEO, who is not here, who was with us in the past 2 days, but she's not here right now. I want to thank her in absentia for the support and making sure that the summit happens. And I want to also mention the Department of Arts and Culture. They might not be present here, but Peter is here. Peter is here. I mean, from the Library Chief Directorate, Library and Archive Chief Directorate, they are busy with the evaluation for the conditional grant they are doing countrywide. They did send an apology. We do have their support, and I must acknowledge them as well, because the funding that we are using for this event is coming from the support that we're getting from the department, and obviously the whole leadership of the department, starting from the minister, the DDG, and everyone who is supporting the National Library in all the work that we do. And coming to our stakeholders, I would like to also thank the leadership of the university as well. The university has committed a lot of resources here for this event. They've sponsored several items, and they really spent not only the financial resources and also their expertise in helping us to prepare for this conference. Starting with the Dean of Social Sciences, Professor Shogane, who was with us on our opening, and also the Deputy Dean. I would like to also especially thank Professor Gianne. We started this with her when we conceptualized this, and as well as the HOD, Mr. Lamini and his team, and also HOD Keswa, acting HOD Keswa from UKZN, and also the Dean of Teaching and Learning, Professor Ruth, and Professor Jacobs, who's also the acting Dean of Teaching and Learning at the moment at UNISA, head of department. These are really important academics in their institutions, but they took time and made an effort to support the work that we do in addressing the challenges this country is facing on reading. So we really appreciate that kind of support, and I hope it will continue. I want to also thank the Department of Education, KZN. The National Department also, they have an important event, but I did note online that there was a senior official also from the Directorate responsible for libraries from the National Office. I saw that there was a representation online, even though they are having a very important event taking place at the moment. And a special thanks to the Provincial Department of Education, the Elites Directorate. They've worked with us also on this journey. They've been part of the meetings, planning, they've committed resources, time and energy, and they are still with us. Some of them are still with us here today. We're really, really grateful for that partnership, and I hope it will grow from strength to strength. Our colleagues from Arts and Culture Library Services Directorate, we are also very grateful for their support, especially because this event is happening in their own province. We did receive the support from the department, from the colleagues and management, and those that are still with us. I must thank them. I must also thank the city of uMhlathuze. City of uMhlathuze raised their hand. They said, no, it can't happen in our province, in our municipality without our participation and also committing resources. So on behalf, we want to convey our gratitude to your leadership. Your councillor was here, and we know your senior management really supported and contributed as well in making sure that this event happened. To thank other colleagues also from other municipalities within KZN who were also part of our planning, contributing, giving us their inputs, even supporting us in ensuring that they raise awareness, they ensure that there is maximum participation from KZN. We are really grateful for that, colleagues. Please keep it up, and I believe that your involvement also going forward will ensure the continuity of the National Reading Summit. I want to thank also the National Library. We always forget to thank our own people, our colleagues from the National Library of South Africa, who are working behind the scenes in the offices, ensuring that this event happens and making sure we get here, our supply chain colleagues, and everybody that contributed in making sure that this event happens, and all the colleagues that are here, playing different roles in making sure that the event is happening and it is a success. And more especially, without our speakers and presenters, there's no summit. So I really want to thank our keynote speakers, our panelists who participated in the panel discussion, session chairs. Thank you very much, colleagues. And the facilitators, session facilitators, and all the presenters, the students, the practitioners. Thank you so much. Without your presentation, this was not going to be happening. I want to thank the exhibitors as well. I know it was hard on day one, you were sitting out in the cold, but you are still here. Those who are still here, we are really grateful. And I hope you did get visitors and interacted with the audience, and we really appreciate that you are here. You really made an important contribution. All our participants virtually and present. I know virtually it's difficult to attend a conference virtually, full day virtually, because there are other disturbances. And you are still here. Those who are still here, we're really, really grateful for that, for your participation. And we also apologize for the technical glitches that we had. And I know some of you missed some of the sessions, some of the presentations. So we will work on improving on especially the technical aspect, to make sure that even those that are not with us in person, they are able to enjoy full participation. And the service providers who made sure that there's food, tables are clean, the hall is clean. Thank you, colleagues. We appreciate your contribution. And in terms of thanking, I hope I did not leave anyone. I do apologize if I left out anyone. But ending my vote of thanks, we are not going to announce the date of the next, we normally announce the date of the next Reading Summit. We will watch our social media platforms. We will communicate further with regards to the next Reading Summit and who is our next partner. That information will be shared at a later stage. And lastly, I want to wish everyone, I was hoping we will all come dressed in our African attire. It's Africa Day today. Happy Africa Day to everyone. Thank you very much. Okay, so the last item is the closing remarks from my chairperson of our committee, Mr. Siyabonga Masuku. He is going to do the closing remarks, and then after that we can go and eat and go home, and I hope everyone travels safely. Thank you.
Sanbonan. Show of hands, has anyone ever been to the National Library of South Africa, in Pretoria particularly? Okay, I've got a quick question for you. Why is the building so tall? Why is the building so tall, the National Library? Because it has many stories. Hello, Molweni, Dumelang, Lochani, Absheni, Nda, Sanbonani. Kamalami Gusia Masugu, a proud member of the National Library Board, and it's an honor to facilitate these closing remarks today at the 3rd Biennial National Reading Summit. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the National Library of SA Board Chair, Mr. Bernardo Maralak, the board members, Ms. Julia Norrish and Preetha Dabadeen, and also the Dean of Social Sciences in absentia, DDG in absentia, all protocols observed. The 3rd Biennial Reading Summit theme was cultivating a thriving literary landscape, 30 years of democracy and beyond. It aimed to celebrate the journey of literacy and reading in South Africa over the past 3 decades of democracy. It was an opportunity to reflect on the progress made in fostering reading cultures and literacies, while also recognizing the work that remains. Participants explored the current state of literacy, reading habits, and innovative initiatives to address the persistent challenges. The objectives of the 3rd Reading Summit include celebrating the advancement in literacy and reading habits over the past 30 years of democracy, acknowledging the efforts and initiatives that have contributed to fostering reading cultures and literacies, identifying the challenges that remain in the post-30-decade democratic ecosystems and developing strategies to address them, exploring innovative approaches and best practices for nurturing reading cultures and literacies beyond the 30-year mark. And lastly, strengthening the collaboration and partnership amongst stakeholders in advancing literacy and reading in South Africa. The key takeaways from these sessions include the following. The country has several challenges with children who cannot read for meaning, leading to poor academic performance. This is not helping to address 3 challenges that are unemployment, inequity, and poverty. Presentations done during the 3rd NRS show some great research and practical work happening on the ground. These aim to address the national reading challenges, while at the same time trying to keep up with the technical innovations. There are still some challenges around access to reading resources that are relevant in our languages, and for parents to read with the children and also to capitalize on technological innovations. There is also a lack of evaluation of the projects to obtain evidence of whether the interventions are making a difference in addressing the national reading challenges. Some key takeaways include policy. It is paramount to follow up on what is happening with the national policy on library services, the Transformation Charter, and the Copyright Bill. joint projects and collaboration. Stakeholders in KwaZulu-Natal should agree on a collaborative legacy intervention initiative that will be monitored and reported on. There is a necessity to establish interdepartmental forums to continue the engagements between this summit and the next. Continued professional development. There must be a focus on continued professional development and training program for skills development, technical innovations, and evaluation of interventions. It is key through LIASA and LETASA to consult the sector and work with institutions of higher learning to develop relevant programs. Access to reading resources. Libraries remain vital points for books and resources. Availability of free online digital resources is also becoming accessible. However, concerns exist about excessive screen time, underscoring the importance of balancing digital access with traditional reading. Furthermore, access to authentic, culturally and linguistically relevant resources remains a challenge. Publishers, booksellers, and stakeholders need to work together to come up with innovative solutions to address all these challenges. And finally, in terms of research and evaluation of intervention, there is a need to invest time and resources to develop research-based interventions and evaluate the interventions. Dear colleagues and partners, the summit has made one thing clear. South Africa is full of passion, commitment, and ideas. What is now required is coordinated action. Beyond being an event, the Reading Summit, the National Reading Summit, rather, must be a movement. Let us carry forward the outcomes of these deliberations with urgency, unity, and purpose. Let us hold ourselves accountable to children. Let us be the generation that turned the page for every South African, regardless of language, background, or geography. To all the organizers, presenters, facilitators, and participators, thank you for your contribution. Sibonga kakhulu igalelo nonke. Can you stand another library joke? I'll say it anyway. Why can't you go to the world's biggest library? It's always overbooked. So the other day I went to a local library and asked for a book on cliffhangers. And the librarian said,